Budget 2024 budget performance defense and the presentation of the 2025 budget proposal to the Committee on Ports and Harbour, House of Representatives, 10th Assembly. The MD, you know how important the committee is to the nation. It's important in the sense that it's a very strong revenue generation for the country. Especially now, the government is looking for ways of increasing its revenue base. And it's also a strong base in job creation for the country. So a lot of activities revolves around the Nigerian Ports Authority, as we all know. And you have a lot of, we're aware that you have a lot of challenges, and we're also aware that a lot of expectations, there are also a lot of expectations from Nigerian Ports Authority with regards to performance and implementation. I also believe that there is no country that survives without a high performance in their ports. There is no way, because the ports determine how buoyant a country is by virtue of the goods coming in and the goods leaving. It's actually the economic hub of every nation, that is the ports. So we expect, and the country expects you to increase the output in Nigerian ports. I'm also aware that there are also there are a lot of interest in developing more ports in Nigeria, and it's going to be of great importance to this country that, in as much as that we're developing new ports, it's also important that we maintain the existing ports. It's going to go a long way in solving our problem. The Eastern Corridor is very important to us, and the Western ports are also very important to us. So as you do your presentation, we expect you to highlight us on how you are going to increase the revenue of the ports and how you are going to how it's going to boost the job creation in the country, which is which we are struggling at the moment. So on behalf of the Committee on Ports and Harbour, welcome, and we'll allow you to do your presentation, and then from there we'll take it on.
Now, regarding the issues of policies, we are mainly a trade facilitation agency, and then also service providing agency. So, and that is very important to the Nigerian economy, like the chairman had already highlighted. Now, in the area of trade facilitation, if you look at the volumes of cargoes that comes into Nigeria, they can only get to their destinations to the extent that they are efficiently cleared from the port. And the efficiency of our port also reflects in our capacity to also compete with the neighboring countries. Cotonou, Lome, Tema, and Ghana, and other countries that we are competing with. So to that extent, the trade facilitation part of the port system is something that we have been working very hard to improve. And so far, if we go through the remaining part of the statements, we will show how we have improved revenue, how we have also gained in additional capacity in the area of both the shipping and the cargo part of the business. So and then again, if we do our work very well in MPA, I mean, as a port system, we're also going to have more revenue for the Nigerian customs. Because as a matter of fact, majority or most of the revenues that customs collect in Nigeria for Nigerian government are generated from the port system. That means that they collect more money from the sea ports than the airports and the border post. So if we do a lot of efficiency, if you have a lot of efficiency in the port system, then a lot of cargo will come into Nigeria, then the customs will also make more revenue. So to that extent, our position, again, like the chairman has mentioned, is a very important one to the Nigerian economy. Not only that, again, the efficiency of the ports also reflects in the security of the country. The more vessels we are attracting, the more indication that they are feeling the safety of navigating into Nigeria, both in terms of the channel safety and also in terms of crime. So again, to that extent, we are a very important institution or agency for the Nigerian economy. Now, it is important to highlight that, again, we are competing with neighboring countries that are also looking to see that even though majority of the cargo that come into West Africa are actually destined to Nigeria, but they want to use it so that they are dropped in Cotonou and then finally they are brought into Nigeria through either the borders or through smuggling or through the seaport. So if we do a lot in the area of infrastructure, for example, we have better infrastructure and modernized infrastructure. If we do better in the area of equipments, meaning that we have more tugboats, we have more mooring boats, we have more efficient pilot quarters, that will help us to also compete with them better. Because in the final analysis, the cargoes are made for the Nigerian population, because in terms of population, Nigeria has the highest population in the region. I mean, in the West African region. We are 200 and something million people. Cotonou is less than 15 million. Ghana is 35 million. Lome is about 35 again. So you can see that in terms of population, all the cargoes that come to West Africa are actually finally supposed to come to Nigeria. So if we do very well in the areas of infrastructure, equipments, technology, and then also human capacity, we are going to be able to handle the cargo very well, and then everything will now, instead of stopping in Cotonou or Ghana or Lome, will come to Nigeria as the final destination from the export branch. So, so that is what I want to say in brief or in summary about the policy statement regarding our approach and our position. Now, with respect to the approved budget of the 2024 budget, now what was approved for, in the 2024 budget was 865,386,715,096 billion, while the total approved expenditure was 850,923,664. The approved expenditure was 850,923,980,364, which is made of 329,628,064,588 for the operating expenses and 611,295,915,776 for capital expenditure. The operating expenses or the recurrent expenditure is made up of 62,378,505,728 for personnel cost, and then 107,249,558,861 for overhead cost. Now, the 2024 budget performance revenue for the budget year 2024, we realized 894.86 billion naira, which exceeded our target of 866,386,751,096 billion. That is on the revenue side. On the expenditure, we expended a total of 471 billion 863,854,060 under the subsisting 2024 budget. This is about 50% of our total approved and is made up of 185, 427, 438, 903 for operating expenses, and 232, 436, 418, 157 for the capital expenses. We must state, however, that this figure will improve exponentially in the next few weeks or in the next week or two, as many of our capital projects are currently in the procurement process at various levels. it is important at this point to state some of the challenges that we experience in our capital expenditure. They include, amongst others, number one, initial 50% deduction of our collections. So as the policy is, initially they were collecting 50% of whatever we send to the federation account at the source. And then also there are delays in releasing or remitting our revenue back to us for other expenses that we need to run in the organization. And then again, number three, other constraint that we had first was the BPP threshold or the procurement threshold for the agencies, which locally for us, the government has approved that it is now. We are hoping that what has been given as approved threshold now is a better policy for us, and it will probably make us perform better in the area of procurement. So remittances to the CFR for the period 2024. So under the 2024, the MPA contributed a total of 400.80 billion. This figure includes direct deduction of our collection by the federal government before releasing or remitting the rest to us. And like as I explained earlier, the 50% deduction and then the delays that we experience in getting what is supposed to come to us for executing our operations is part of the things that had caused our ability to perform more than 60 or 70% of the procurement process. So from the table here, in the year 2024, what made of the 400 billion that we have remitted to federal government, cash payment was 10 billion, port development levy was 46 billion 406, 46 billion 068 710 247. That's for the port development levy. And then 50% deductions, direct deductions were 344 billion 729 593 958, totaling 400 billion 978 304 205. You may observe that this sum is higher, in fact, almost doubled MPA's or Nigerian Ports Authority contribution to CFR and to CRF in their 2023 budget, which amounted to 213 billion. The 2025 budget estimate. Our 2025 budget proposal is a business outlook for the authority and a reflection of our goals and aspirations. Now, it should be noted that efficient port services, such as it is necessary to have safety of navigation of the channels, port safety of berth, piloted system that is efficient, towage system that is also efficient, and mooring system. However, this needs substantial investment in infrastructure, in technology, equipment, and capital, in human capital, like I mentioned earlier. So in terms of revenue for the 2025 revenue, assumptions for the 2025 revenue, we have relied on a few assumptions in order to achieve our projected revenue in 2025. They include stability of the dollar to naira exchange rate, which is 1,400 to a dollar. The Dangote refinery is expected to operate at full capacity by the end of 2025, and the special nature of the single point mooring that is operated at Dangote offshore. Operating will attract more ship dues, and then also automation of the national single window, which has been approved by the federal government, and we are likely to have our own port community system deployed before the end of this year. And then we are also looking to install the equivalent VTS system in our system.
$1.5 billion was approved by the federal government for dredging of ports. Which of the ports that money was approved? $1.5 billion was approved of late for dredging of the ports. Which of the ports?
Lekki.
Yes, Lekki, yes. Which of the ports that money was approved for?
It's Lekki Port.
Lekki Deep Sea Port.
Lekki Deep Sea Port.
Okay.
Lekki Deep Sea Port, is by improving infrastructure in whatever industry. But most importantly, the accepted principle is that if you have a population in any region of the world, you are supposed to lead that region or continent. And if you have a population, you also have to have the biggest port. So it applies across board, intercontinental. So now the example of that is that the most populous country in North America is the United States of America, with a population of over 300 million or thereabout. Then their port is the biggest port in the whole region. That is the port of Los Angeles. So now if you come to Europe, the most populous country in Europe is Germany. It has a population of about 87 million people. Britain has about 54 million people, and France and others. But then again, naturally again, the biggest port in Europe is Hamburg in Germany because of the population. So the same thing applies to the South America, which is Brazil. Same thing applies to China. China is the biggest in Asia, and the biggest port in Asia is also in Shanghai in China. So it's not a good thing that in Africa we have the highest population, but the biggest port in Africa is in South Africa, which is Durban, and the biggest port in West Africa is in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. So there must be something that has happened that we must look into. So one of the things we have identified is the need for a deep sea port. So that was the effort that MPA made with federal government from a few years back. It took Nigeria almost 12 years to be able to establish Lekki Port because of funding. So now the Chinese are the main owners of the port. We have 2 berths there. They are bringing a lot of vessels that are big. You can see from the revenue. So now, even to our own luck again, we have the Dangote refinery, which is also situated just next to it, and is using the same water. So because of the traffic, there must be sanitation. You know, sanitation means the things that in your own room or in a hotel room. That's why every day in a hotel room they clean it, because of the people that go in and in. So if you allow that you stay in a hotel and then nobody is cleaning it or changing the bed the sheetings and all that, then there will be a problem. So it's the same thing with the port system. We have to continue to clean it so that these activities can take place. And for your information, only from October till now, the Dangote refinery marine services have added over 400 and something vessels to our business, because the commission or they started on the 1st of October last year. So that is the reason why we have found it necessary to look for the approval to be able to do the maintenance dredging of Lekki Port.
You get me some answers, it will help me to... you were emphasizing on population has been the main driver. But I think it is actually activities that should be the main drivers. You just confirmed them by telling us that the activities of Dangote refinery alone has brought in so much volume. So it's not about the population. If you have a docile, inactive population, you don't have any business anywhere. That's number one. Number two, between the draft, the natural draft of an environment and the port facilities, which one should really be the major driver for vessel capacity? From elementary marine shipping, of course, the deeper the draft, the bigger the vessels that will call. So if you spend all the money repairing your ports and harbors, and you have very shallow rivers, you don't expect big vessels to come in. So our narratives has to be very apt. Our narrative has to capture the essence of whatever it is that we are doing, and that also gives us the impetus to begin to talk about the emergence of the various deep sea ports. We were constrained by our productive capacities. The ports that were built in the colonial days were based on what we were doing and the availability of the vessels that were around. Now we are further challenged by the economics of shipping, which requires bigger vessels. And the narrative now is around the deep sea ports. You have had one at Lekki, which is doing very well. The turnover is also good. If you look at the TUE that Lekki deep sea port alone can handle, it's almost about 70–80% of expectations of Nigeria.
The budgeted amount was 1 billion, and then so the reason we're expecting to have more revenue is that because if you look at it, right, Honorable Sir, 1 billion, and then performance was 78 million, and then we are anticipating or proposing 3 billion. So what has happened in the recent past is that we have concessioned in 2023, yeah, the supply of water, the water treatment plants in Tinkan and Apapa, which is majorly where the water is required, because Lagos has more general cargo vessels. The eastern ports, especially One, has more oil and gas tankers. So the number of vessels that come to Apapa sometimes could be up to 2,000, 3,000. And all of them in some form or shape, they will need money. They will need water for either fresh water, either water for stabilizing and things like that. But again, like I said, some of those treatment plants were constructed maybe 40 years, 50 years back. So we realized that the management of the water treatment plant was becoming a very big problem on our part. So the government now decided to concession them. So the process of the concession now made the business in that area to come very low, because as we are doing the concession, the process is taking, it's making people not to come there to patronize it. So our hope is that now that we have concluded and we have also handed over the facilities to the concessionaires, then we are expecting that we'll make more money from it. That is why we are projecting higher amounts of money there. And then medicals. So now this is also related to the aging, the aging personnel and then the retirees. We have a lot of retirees, and by our own condition of service, some of them still come back for certain support in medical. And then we also have a lot of people who are most likely in their late 50s and early 50s. And a lot of people who are managing hypertension, diabetes, and all that. So we need to be able to have adequate medicine or drugs, so that we don't have to be going to NNPC to look for drugs. Because we are also a government agency, and we are supposed to be able to self-fund these major or necessary requirements. So that is regarding and with respect to the NYSC. So NYSC allowance. So the NYSC system, like you must have also recognized or observed, some years back, in a whole year, NYSC will only do one batch, one what do you call it? One batch. They will camp only once at the Anakwaja, and then they will send them to us. But now I think every year you have maybe 3 or even 4 batches, because of the number of universities, and as a government entity, it's not for us to always be rejecting youth corpus. And then we have also increased the amount of money we pay them as stipends, because of the realities of the situation we are in now. So I think that is the reason why we have also increased our proposed estimation for.
Okay. For us, this thing is a continuum. Since we oversight you, whatever we see, even if at the point that we pass a budget, if there's something that we see that we don't like, we'll call you back. You understand? We have that constitutional right to do it. So that even if we are going to pass your budget today or tomorrow, that does not mean that we cannot continue to review where we see lapses. And we agreed that after this budget, we also need to do oversight. We need to do oversight. We need to visit the Lekki ports. We need to visit the existing ports. We need to visit the eastern ports to see things to ourselves too. So, and we also believe that in one of those visits, you make yourself available. Because it's important that when we talk with the MD and the EDs, we make yourself not always. The last time we went we saw only the port managers. So we're not comfortable with that. Any day we have, it's important that the MD and the ED should also make themselves available, because we don't usually stay more than 2 days when we do this oversight.